Hello everyone, Vincent Hill from HDTV Test here. In this video, we are going to analyze the HDR presentation on the 4K Blu-ray disc of Back to the Future. Now, I have purchased the trilogy box set, but I only had time to analyze the first movie, which is what this video is going to be focusing on. If there's enough interest, I'll continue analyzing the second and the third movie. But let's first start by putting the disc inside a Panasonic UB9000 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray player and read the static HDR10 metadata. Oh, before I forget, the disc is actually available in Dolby Vision, but I'm just reading the HDR10 base layer. So you can see here that the maximum mastering display luminance is 4000 nits, which corresponds to using a Dolby Pulsar for grading, and the maximum content light level or max CLL is 1000 nits, and the maximum frame average light level or max FALL is 755 nits. But rather than trust this static metadata, what we are going to do is to use another device to analyze the peak brightness and also the white color gamut used in the content itself. And the device I'm going to be using is the Canon DP-V2411 reference display monitor, and this is the little brother to the DP-V3120 that I have reviewed maybe a few weeks ago. Now I had to return that 30+ thousand pounds monitor, but Canon Europe has been kind enough to provide me a smaller unit, basically the DP-V2411, which is only 24 inches in screen size, whereas the 3120 that I was using before was 31 inches, so it's a fair bit smaller. But it also has the same inbuilt HDR analysis tool where we can analyze various parameters on any HDR content, including the maximum content light level or max CLL, the max FALL, and then we can analyze the waveform, we can apply false colors, and we can also use a pixel checker value function where you can place a cursor over any element on screen and read its peak brightness, and also whether the color fall inside or outside Rec 709 in the Rec 2020 container. And in other words, it has the exact same HDR analysis function as the bigger brother 3120, thus proving that sometimes a smaller tool can do an equally good job. But thanks a lot again to Canon Europe for loaning this professional reference monitor to me for the purpose of performing or carrying out all these HDR analysis. You know, the monitor still costs 5 figures, so thanks again Canon Europe. But let's dive into Back to the Future then. So once we start applying a false color function, anything that is monochrome or grayscale will be under 200 nits, and then on the left of the screen you can see a color scale where different peak brightness will be represented by different colors, and also at the top left corner you can see a frame luminance monitor, and the bottom left corner you can see the waveform to determine which elements on screen hit what sort of peak brightness. So right from the off, as Marty McFly cranked up his amplifiers and speakers, you can see that the metallic guitar pick that he was using in terms of the gleam came very close to 1000 nits, and as the speakers exploded, the sparks exceeded 1000 nits, and once the dust has settled and he slowly recovered, again the reflections in his aviator sunglasses came very close to 1000 nits. So this gave us a very good baseline for what I thought to be an excellent HDR presentation, because you know all these elements just add to the immersion and depth of the picture. Next, we go to an outdoor scene where Marty is hitching a ride on his skateboard, and again there are various elements on the street, especially reflections of windows that came close to 1000 nits. And as he stopped in front of his school, you can see that this red bin here there's a slider of reflection that went above 1000 nits. And next, in this nighttime scene, you can see that there are various lights that came close to 1000 nits or occasionally even exceeded 1000 nits. And then we go to the sequence where he's driving the DeLorean being chased by some criminals, and the headlamps on the criminal's van reached around 800 nits. Next, in this scene where the DeLorean has crashed into a barn, you can see that the lights, came close to 1000 nits. And in this outdoor scene in the past, the reflections of the bicycles came close to 1000 nits, even occasionally exceeding 1000 nits, giving that sort of realism and pop that you can never get from an SDR or standard dynamic range content, or even subdued HDR grading. This is an excellent HDR grade, Back to the Future. And let's check out the iconic skateboard chase scene. And as Marty made a very acute turn on his skateboard, there were sparks flying from his wheels, and these exceeded 1000 nits. And as Biff gave chase in his vehicle, various elements on the street and also reflections of the vehicle grills, they came close to or even exceeded 1000 nits here and there. And finally, we go into the last scene where the lightning strikes the clock tower. And again, there are various elements that reached 1000 nits or even exceeded it slightly, giving us that sort of tremendous impact from the movie. After checking the HDR presentation, next we move on to check the WCG or white color gamut use. And I think that the WCG use is excellent throughout this entire movie as well. So there are many very shiny guitars in this movie, and at the beginning I think Marty was using a yellow guitar, and the yellow here exceeded Rec 709 quite easily. And then later on at the school dance, he was playing a red guitar, and again this deep cherry red is exceeding Rec 709, as you can see from the CIE chromaticity diagram on the left of the screen. And then we checked out various other elements. For example, this red bin here outside the school, the red exceeded Rec 709. And again, if we go into another scene where they are using a toy model car for simulation purposes, the red on the toy car exceeded Rec 709. And last but not least, we checked out the Twin Pine logo at the parking lot, and indeed, it exceeded Rec 709. So I would say that this movie has excellent use of WCG or white color gamut coverage. Now, outside of HDR and WCG presentation, generally I think the movie looked as good as it can actually be, considering its age. And even though there were a few shots here and there which feature some noise reduction and also some softness, I think they were quite rare and don't detract from what I consider to be an excellent HDR and also WCG presentation. I mean, if you looked at my analysis through the DP-V2411, the white color gamut use and also the peak brightness or HDR use is just fantastic throughout. And it shows that, if a color grading team, if a colorist put some effort into it, with the correct direction from the producers and the directors, then, this is what HDR can bring to even a film that was filmed ages ago. So yeah, I think this is a disc that if you are a fan, or even if you are not a fan, it deserves to be watched for its excellent HDR and WCG use. And I certainly hope that the second and third film of the franchise will continue to use such outstanding HDR and white color gamut presentation. If you like to learn more about other 4K Blu-ray discs with excellent use of HDR, I've created a playlist here. And if you want to learn more about discs which have subdued HDR or even SDR in an HDR container, I've put a playlist here if you like to click there, and I'll see you in the next video.